I would now like to welcome and introduce our first keynote for today, Margaret Sullivan. And Margaret's joining us from South Carolina. Margaret is a national thought leader in assisting public libraries to envisage their preferred future. Margaret leads Margaret Sullivan Studio, a full-service strategy and design firm collaborating with innovative library systems internationally. Since the firm's founding in 2014, Margaret Sullivan Studios has become the industry leader in re-envisaging the 21st century library for diverse and complex contemporary communities with a focus on social justice and racial equity. Margaret has assisted over 30 public library systems to define their version of what a 21st century library can be through strategic planning, facilities master planning, visioning, programming, and interior design. Prior to establishing her own firm, Margaret worked for prestigious architectural firms including H3 Hardy Collaboration Architecture as director of interior design. In 2017, Margaret was named as one of the Interior Design magazine's Rising Stars. Please welcome Margaret. Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you, Vicki, and greetings to all of you on the other side of this wonderfully tiny globe. Goodness, I cannot tell you how honored, humbled, and grateful I am to be opening the Changing Spaces Conference. You have an amazing lineup of speakers and events, and it is sure to open you to new ideas and new networks. With a focus on the most visible and, dare I challenge, one of the most underutilized tools we have as librarians, our physical spaces, to create the conditions for our communities to flourish. What a privilege to be speaking to a group of dedicated professionals, all working in your patch of the planet to do the hero's work of connecting us to possibilities and to our hopes, dreams, and aspirations. One of the greatest joys of being in library land is that we see how the world is connected, and we are all part of a global network to use the power of the library as an instrument to create the world we want for our friends, families, and neighbors. I will have to say that when I received this invite, I got the glimmer of hope that by now we'd be able to travel and I could be with you in person, feeling your Australian warmth and humor to fuel my presentation. Have no worry, I am taking it in through Zoom and sending you my American hospitality, Southern style, in return. I also have to admit, being invited to do a keynote speech is daunting and can make one feel anxious and nervous. Will my passion for this work show through the screen? Will my belief that with intentional design, we can change the world resonate? Will I communicate the bold confidence I have that our equity-driven values are our unique value proposition, and we should never, ever question our relevancy in the world? Will I inspire us all, including myself, to use the power of creating experiences at a time when we so desperately need humanity, when we so desperately need healing? Spoiler alert, I will say community a lot. And just a little bit about my style. You will have lots of great slides to study that will be shared with you all. Speaking engagements like this one give us the chance to delve into questions. I have called this presentation Library as Theater because I have always thought that design professionals and librarians create the scenery and the backdrop for our communities we serve to learn, create, and share. We provide the stage, they provide the play. So right out of the gate, I'm going to provide us with a critical inquiry that I've been yearning to answer my entire career. Peter Brook, the seminal British theater director, says that the only two ingredients that great theater needs are an audience and an actor. It is the human connection that generates the transformative experience of the play's purpose. Now, consider, what does that experience look like in librarianship? How can we take away the stuff? What is the essence of Peter Brook's human connection for us? Come with me today. Let's let Library as Theater address our collective curiosity. I also have to confess that the theme that lost out was a lecture I am really obsessed with doing someday: why your library should be your everyday Burning Man. Don't get me wrong, I am a full believer in radical inclusion, gifting, and immediacy. But until I get myself out to the Nevada desert in the squelching heat of August to learn what it really means to leave no trace, I feel woefully ill-equipped to give that lecture. But what I am equipped to do is celebrate the almost 3 decades of work I have enjoyed to turn the methodology of library building design on its head. To design for people first, not our widgets, my code word for anything that does not breathe life we have in our buildings. When we do this, we accomplish 3 things. 1, we center all of the individuals we serve, which is the only way we generate inclusive communities. 2, we use our buildings, and especially our interiors, to work hard for our communities, fostering the feelings, the learnings, and the outcomes that our strategies were written to accomplish. And 3, we create the conditions not only for our community to flourish, but for our professional staff to be more creative, innovative, and experimental. Have we ever considered that often our buildings don't work for our imaginations as librarians? Margaret Sullivan Studio was formed over 7 years ago as a design firm focused on reimagining the library of the 21st century. I am also very proud that we are radically diversifying the architecture profession by hiring those who are traditionally left out. With a super laser focus, we have transformed over 4 million square feet of public libraries throughout America by working with some of the most progressive library leaders in the country, all committed to community transformation and building social capital. This all started over 20 years ago with Imagine On, the Joe and Joan Martin Center in Charlotte, North Carolina, a partnership between the library's youth department and the Children's Theater of Charlotte. It was dubbed the first library of the 21st century because it was designed to create learning experiences for all. From this, we learned the need to create environments for 21st century skill sets and choice for what our client and collaborator, Melanie Huggins, calls the learn, create, share cycle. And it is the same partner in crime, along with co-conspirator Roberta Phillips, that gave us the most provocative question I had ever heard in my career. On a bright afternoon, almost 7 years ago, with the cacophony of New York City's meatpacking district in the background, I got a call from Melanie, now the director of the Richland, South Carolina Library System. And as we were about to embark on a 5-year journey to transform their facilities from spaces for books to places for people, she challenged the 3 of us. How will the spaces support the activities and programs to create the feelings and outcomes we want for our community? Now, I invite you on a journey to show how we got here and inspire us all on where we can go. Stop, look, go. Stop, in this split second, disconnect, be present, and welcome yourself to this community of learners. Look at the possibility of what this moment and this conference brings. Go, avail yourself of this possibility. Avail yourself of this gift. Avail yourself of this luxury. We are in the golden era of library design. No other institution is as well positioned to create inclusive communities through placemaking and use our facilities to generate critical social infrastructure. We have heard the call to action. We are emboldened to use our inclusive values, our power, privilege, and responsibility to lift everyone's voices, to foster all styles of learning. In this new era of library design, we center the community. We activate their experiences with strategy and vision, intentional values and experience principles, places and spaces, and then deliver to them their customized recipe of collections and technologies while leveraging our skills and talents and partnerships. This simple diagram is the revolution that centers humanity. For so long, library designers, meaning we, have failed you by putting stuff before people. In conventional 20th century library design, we design libraries using benchmark standards and metrics that have nothing to do with your community's ambitions. The human condition is not a math problem. Our process of designing for people and activities results in an inversion of the space allocation, where flexible and adaptable places intentionally designed for learning give you the ammunition for community transformation. And our secret weapon is placemaking. We apply this process because it engages the community, builds on their strengths, and intentionally considers all of the elements that go into creating an awesome experience. When I explain it to folks who have never heard the term placemaking, I say, think of the last time you hosted a really great dinner party. Think of everything you considered, how you greeted your guests, the china on the table, the delicious food you took pride in making, the music you played, who you sat next to each other. This is placemaking, and all of you do this for your communities each and every day. We do it by creating experiences for storytelling in all its vibrant forms, designing environments for wonderment, fostering play for youth in Mesquite, Nevada, and the South Bronx, providing the places and the tools to grow the creative class in Columbia, South Carolina. We do this by giving youth in Memphis, Tennessee, environments to win indie film competitions, national robotics competitions, and make so much music they could have their own record label. We do this by designing innovation zones in New Haven, Connecticut that embrace those being left out of the knowledge economy. We do this by giving a gateway to immigrants moving to Las Vegas that honors their culture and gives them the tools to achieve their American dream and financial stability for their families. What we learn is that we can't do this alone, and we must work collaboratively with our clients as partners in community change, supporting each other to take the risks that we know are right, but aren't always easy. We must have confidence that a theory of change will produce health and wealth creation, and that we can't look away from deep community challenges that inevitably affect our work. But always remembering that it is when we use human-centered design techniques that we can envision a future with them that negotiates the complexities and uncertainties of our time and models genuine excitement about embracing them. That we are librarians, gosh darn it, and we can have the expertise to look all around us to build the best practices and to respect our community's demands. Our values are realized fully when we co-create with the community, and we must do this work with radical empathy. We will never hear fully their hopes, dreams, and desires unless we open ourselves to be in total and complete service to them. In our community engagement work, we go to the communities with an inspirational vision and invite them to evolve it, shape it, and activate it. We believe that the next generation users should design their next gen library. We develop trusted relationships with community members, taking pride in giving them what they ask for. Some folks have said we gamify community participation. We use tools of empathy and compassion so neighbors are creating library experiences for neighbors. Call me crazy, but I haven't met a single person who doesn't love to design their perfect library. We listen to what our communities really need, even if we don't quite know yet if we can provide it. And we continuously learn new techniques of being more inclusive to those that have been traditionally left out of civic participation. And as we digest it and make it concrete, we use our design skills to generate this co-created vision that reflects what our communities want to do, and results in a strategy for placemaking and facility activation that allows libraries to make the most impact by catering to unique community conditions and being designed to support unique learning needs. Placemaking enables you to create cultural relevancy, evoke experiences that build trust, and design for outcomes that make you a powerful engine in your community's economic development agenda. Here is the secret sauce. The only way that this works is when the recipe comes from the community. When we did the community engagement for the Richland North Main Library in Columbia, South Carolina, a community of civil rights activists, they told us that they wanted a place for their kids to be ready for kindergarten, a place to gather in large groups to be politically active, a safe space for their teens to meet their peers, and a place for their folks to get jobs. It was our job to use our hands, our skills and talents to turn their request into the architecture that respected their desires. How are we feeling? We're good? Great. One of the favorite exercises we do with our libraries to generate shared values is what we call the gift exercise. We have folks break up in pairs and tell each other their life story. From that life story, partners give each other a hypothetical gift based on one partner's interest and the other partner's skills and talents. For example, when we modeled this recently for a client, my staff member Emily and I were paired. I learned that she loves printmaking, as do I, so I gave her printmaking materials and set aside time in the workday for us all to play with printmaking together. After we do that exercise, we couple it with another that I learned from my great mentor, Margaret Sullivan. For this, we break out into larger groups of 4 to 6. We build on our strengths and our personal memories to describe and share our proudest moments of our career. These memories, these small moments of accomplishment, will form the basis of a shared value system. I have come to believe that this is one answer to that question: what is the essence of librarianship? It is graciousness, vulnerability, and trust. It is the strength of the individual amplified by the collective. Give yourself the vulnerability to tell your story. Give yourself the openness to listen to someone else's. Give yourself the moment to gift. Give yourself the courage to accept a gift in return. Give yourself the time to reflect on your proudest accomplishments in service to others. And yes, these are my children, my greatest pride and joy, and libraries that we designed, my other great pride and joy. And for those of you who, like me, are obsessed with the science of happiness, you know this truth: community graciousness is the foundation of community happiness. We all come from places that form us, and many of us go to places that forge us. Greenville, South Carolina, where I was born, gave me a childhood support system that introduced me to the possible. And it gave me a modern gem of a library with a grand globe in the center, A destination feature like this one that you can see from every location in the library can remind you of where you can go and who you can be. In my case, that was New York City. New York City gave me the freedom, the courage, and the experiences to become who I needed to be for my friends, loved ones, and the industry that has become family. New York City is where, in non-COVID times, I live and is the home base of our studio. That family that formed is you, Libraryland. And Libraryland has given me the place to take risks and to know that the biggest risk sometimes is actually not taking one. This poem was presented by a speaker at a library conference in Seattle, Washington. I attended the week I launched Margaret Sullivan Studio. And the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. I gift this to you today. Now, what has been keeping me up at night and getting me up in the morning? We're back to this. How will the spaces support the programs and activities to create the feelings and the outcomes we want for our community? Feelings. What role will honoring feelings and emotions play in the future library experience to build trust and cooperation, happiness and joy, vibrancy and vitality, health and wealth? If any of you were at ALA's 2019 keynote speech in Washington, D.C., if you weren't, you can Google Jason Reynolds' excellent keynote speech. You would have heard Jason Reynolds say, maybe what librarians really are architects. Maybe what libraries really are warehouses where we build human libraries, where we protect the sacred narratives and emotions of each other in our hearts and minds in service to community. And if any of you have been able to see Heidi Schreck's play, What the Constitution Means to Me, you have learned the difference between a positive right and a negative right, and realized that the library is a choice we make every day. It's an institution of our invention. No one told us we had to make this choice, but we did because we felt so strongly about democracy. We felt so passionate about using an instrument that provides access to amazingness to all to build stronger communities. What will our next era of creating experiences be? And have we even been optimizing this privilege in the past? We know the building blocks of creating experiences are being in tune to what our community members are thinking, feeling, and doing. We know that we are part of a life-wide journey that expands across moments of time, hours, days, and years. We know that we create moments that change people's lives, and our places and environments should be designed to ensure all in our community can become their best selves. But what will it mean if we drill down into this even more deeply? You academic librarians know this. The research is deep. As I start my journey of this research, I won't pull you into the rabbit hole of words I couldn't even pronounce and definitions I couldn't even understand that I got myself into. But I will leave these slides in the slideshow so that all of us can study them later. But as I was finding the common themes, these concepts became the through thread: openness and awareness. Consistently being open is both a good thing and a key attribute of learning, of being accepting of others, and of practicing discovery, exploration, and curiosity. All of the things we do. But the real question that I think we can challenge ourselves with is, how are we creating the conditions for our communities to be more open, to try new things, and in turn become better lifelong learners, more inventive and more resilient and responsive to change? And if we know that awareness is the ability to directly know and to feel, what are we doing to create the environments for our community's feelings to be accepted, protected, and nurtured? And so I present a call to action to think about what we can do with our spaces and places to activate the feelings, emotions, and evocative experience that make us human. What stage will you set for your community to perform? How will you design experiences that heighten all of the senses? How will you give safe space for the joy and the anger that all of us will need as we heal? How will we foster the place for necessary political and social reforms to honor the radical choice the library was sprung from? How will we embrace everyone's strengths, accept them for who they are, and give them places for their wildest imaginations to flourish? How will memories linger for those immersed in your steps? How will we demonstrate with unwavering faith that the library is committed to hold the place of unknown and uncertainty, but with a religious-like belief system that in community, justice, equity, and prosperity are possible? How will we always be in the future for our communities, committing with intention that we will create scenarios of gratitude, togetherness, and learning with openness and love? And how will we practice the most important emotion of them all, the fierceness of civic love that makes you the most important public benefit in the world? Providing access to information with experiences and with compassion is what makes the library impactful. It is the essence that doesn't need anything but you, the actor, and the audience, your community. Or could it even be the other way around? Perhaps you are the audience and they are the actors. And now you have the library as theater, the scene for civic love. No one does this better than Doc 1 in Aarhus, Denmark. In the middle of the library is an art piece that is a gong that a parent can ring from the hospital when their child is born. That is civic love. The community is called to nurture collectively. That is the best of what the library as the theater can do. Having experienced this myself, we immediately feel deep compassion as soon as the gong sounds. Now you know, you already have the power to create amazing experiences within you. Now is the time to unleash them. Go forth, and with this call to action from the great activist, Dr. Angela Davis, imagine new worlds, even if we will not experience those worlds ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. You certainly have given us so much to think about, and you've obviously had so much experience in working with libraries and the community as well. Just a reminder to everyone that they can submit their questions using the question button, and we'll be able to present them to Margaret. And also, I think, Margaret, just to reassure everyone, you've had some fantastic slides that have got so much depth of information that the slides will also be available to delegates post-conference as well, which is, I think you did mention, but it's really important that people know that as well. I guess, I mean, the central theme of everything you talked about is the community and empathy and inclusion and that sort of thing. And I was just wondering if you could share with us, Margaret, one of the projects and the impact that it's had in a community, to demonstrate just how successful the work that was done by a library and what it's achieved. An example that stands out to you.
Oh, there's so many, but that's a wonderful question. I go back. Yeah, I give a lot of kudos to one of the first groups of projects where we worked in Richland Library, South Carolina, because we started those projects about 6-7 years ago. So they've all been completed. So there's a lot of evidence to support that this approach does generate those wonderful customer experiences. So I'll give a couple of examples there, and then I have another one that came out of Mesquite, Nevada. But the North Main project that I used as a case study in this presentation, with intention, we not only responded to their request for the different space types that the library was designed for, but we intentionally stated at the front end of the project that we want this experience to elicit joy. And one of the greatest, one of my greatest prides was hearing a story that someone walked in and said, this library makes me joyful. And I think what it tells us is that you create these qualitative intentions in your design work, but when you work with rigor, and as designers, that's what our duty is to uncover what it means to be joyful, to create environments that generate joy. There is a return on that work that it can be realized, and so that was a really proud moment when I heard that story. The other example I wanted to give was in Mesquite, Nevada, which is a small town. It's in Las Vegas, Clark County. And it's a stop kind of in between Utah and Las Vegas. And there's a casino. There are a lot of retirees, and then there's also a casino. And so many of the retirees have moved there and have been displaced from their families. And then with the casino, many Latinx immigrant families have moved there for work. And the library we designed to really be a community living room that was had zones, but was actually quite open so that it could ebb and flow throughout the day, and was very family centric. And when the building opened, and I was at the opening, I was sitting next to a woman who lived in Mesquite her whole life. And she said, this is so wonderful and vibrant because it's bringing the community together in a way that we can serendipitously interact in all of these little pockets of living rooms, but also have our places and spaces for our activities. And it's not a very big library. It's only about 15,000 square feet. But she really appreciated the fact that this was a place that was bringing all of diversity together by activating experiences so that they could cross generations, could enjoy each other as well.
Thank you, Margaret. Great examples. And I think, if a library brings joy, that's fantastic as well. We do have quite a few questions coming in. So, so I'll take the opportunity. One of them is, Margaret, I love how you include community in the design, build and develop it with the community. But there must be resistance or disinterest from some groups who would most benefit. How did you reach that hard to reach people?
Oh my goodness, it's roll up your sleeves hard work. It's cultivation, invitation, and meeting people where they are. And it's many times our process it's unfolding community engagement like an onion. Sometimes you start in the town hall meeting and it's a Wednesday night, so who's coming to the town hall meeting, and you identify who are the folks that we're not reaching in this format because of lack of disposable time, barriers to entry because of transportation, language barriers, just awareness. And it's really doing that detective work, working with leaders and organizers in communities that can help organize many of the marginalized communities that often aren't participating in civic engagement. And, it's just, it's a group effort, and it's a commitment by all parties. I mean, I always say, I think our work has benefited, and I've just enjoyed so much that the clients are really partners, and we have a high trust relationship with a commitment to doing what's right, even if it's challenging. But it's the work of community engagement is our work right now. And it is a continuous relationship and trust building and leveraging the networks that exist in our communities to engage.
So I guess trust sits at the centre of everything, particularly when you're doing these sorts of activities. Another question is how important, and you mentioned the gong in Doc 1, which I have seen, and it is quite it really grabs your attention, and as you said, when it does go off, it's sort of a bit spine tingling, I guess, when you realise what's happening. But the question that has come in is, how important do you think it is to have a statement feature? A globe that's visible from all floors of the library, the grand piano in the atrium, or as you said, the example from Doc 1. How important is it to have something like that?
I think it's a missed opportunity if we don't. And I think you don't have to spend a lot of money. It can be, a really fabulous DIY art piece of the century. But I think it's just such a fun thing to think about. What is the destination? I call them the destination features. What is a destination feature that is so hyper local to your community? What would resonate with them? Whether it's an art piece or an interactive piece or a funky piece of furniture, or we've done a carpet that's a scavenger hunt, a custom scavenger hunt carpet in one of our locations. We've even done tiles, crossword puzzle tiles in bathrooms. There's so many ways that you can integrate a little piece of something delightful and unexpected. And I just think it's a great privilege, and I would encourage everyone to think about what's the destination feature that both is hyper local to the community, but also could be a draw.
And I think, what I noticed in your slides was the use of colour. And I guess colour doesn't cost anything more.
Colour doesn't cost anything more. It's the secret sauce. Yeah. And it evokes, and, color is hard. I mean, it takes practice, but it makes such a huge impact. And I encourage everyone to go there. And you can always paint over it if it's the wrong one.
Yeah. So I've got lots more questions, so I'll just have to pick a couple. Thanks for a great presentation, Margaret. I really like your focus on user experience and the concept of creating moments that matter. I plan to use that with my staff. What is one of your most inspiring examples of creating moments that matter in contemporary libraries?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think you'll have to ask the constituents who use the library. Oh gosh, I don't know if I can answer that question without doing some research. I do think there's some examples that I'm really proud of that I would think do create moments that matter. And one is, again, I go back to the Richland Library work, but there was an artist in residence, the first artist in residence, sent out bookmarks to all of the community members and had them doodle on the bookmark. And when the bookmark, and then collected the bookmarks, they were in black and white, and then colorized them. And so in the teen space, there's this wonderful mural that is co-created by the community. And I just have to think that just as, that's just an evergreen moment that matters. It's going to be something special for people who participated in that project to live forever and ever. The only thing I had to do with it was that I, presented this idea of kind of a graphic design for that wallpaper. And then the client group and the artist in residence took it from there. So, I love also that our job as designers isn't necessarily always to own the end product, but to provide the inspiration for others to take it on its own journey too.
Thank you. And this is probably going to be our final question. And I think it's certainly something that we've talked about at my library. I guess coming out of COVID, and many libraries were locked down for, particularly in the southern states in Australia, for nearly a year. We have whole cohorts in academic libraries who haven't had an on-site experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, how do we ensure that library buildings remain relevant in the future, particularly for students? And, given that we've had such a strong pivot in public libraries as well to online delivery.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think one of the things is we want to believe, that the library experience is important and valuable, no matter what the changing conditions of our society are. And I think, one of the things that did resonate with me that I spoke to with what the Constitution means to me is this notion that we have invented this, and that is our responsibility to continuously make it important. But I think, academic libraries, it's just, you have such a direct relationship with your students and your faculty that I think there's such an opportunity to just, continue to say, you've got this space. What do you want to do? What do you want us to do with it for you? How do you want to use this square feet that's totally devoted to your health and well-being in a much more flexible and nurturing way than any other space on the campus? And I think just that constant feedback loop is the inspiration that we all can use to think differently. I mean, change is happening so rapidly right now, and there's such a benefit to that we can capture and engage with groups about what they want their libraries to be.
I think on one of your early slides, you had that, in designing spaces, 40% of spaces for active engagement. And I think that's certainly what people come for libraries for, is that engagement and to interaction with others. And I think that's an important aspect going forward as well.
Librarians love that slide. We call it the rave slide, but it just makes so much sense in a pie chart while you feel like you're fighting with your buildings all the time.
Yeah. Well, I snuck a photo of it while it was on the screen. So Margaret, you've certainly covered a lot, and you've been very generous in sharing your experience and the slides. And as I mentioned earlier, the slides will be available post the conference. So thank you for joining us from South Carolina. We've really enjoyed your presentation. As I said, lots of questions, but unfortunately we couldn't get through to them. So thank you very much, Margaret.
Well, thank you. It's been such a delight. And I can't wait to visit you all when the world opens up again.
We'd be very happy to host you, Margaret. So thank you very much. So we're going to take a short break now, and we'll be back in 2 minutes, and we'll hear from Jill Ben, who's from the University of Western Australia. So we'll see you in a few moments. Thank you.